Okay, hi, I'm Frank Oliva, and welcome to the Oahu Open Studios here in Kailua. I really do enjoy painting. It gives me a pleasure. It kind of takes me to another place, and I would paint in different styles. But I was really influenced when we went to Australia on a vacation after I retired, and as a career as a civil engineer. And so the Aboriginal art uses dots, and it was something that's kind of different to the point where people recognize my art. It's kind of nice.
How do you put the dots on there?
Yeah, so I was kind of wondering, how do I they don't have a circular brush. How do you do that so evenly? And then I remember watching a film in one of the museums in Australia, I think in Sydney, and there was a film of women painting, and what they were doing was they were dipping a kind of a narrow mop into a bucket. Yeah. So I was looking at that as they were just kind of doing this, and I said, aha, Q-tips. So I use Q-tips.
Q-tips.
Yes, and what's great is they come in different sizes. I mean, there's little Q-tips for babies, and,
yeah.
And some that just have a point, so I can make some small dots with the Q-tips. So it's kind of controlling, but I'll use a different base. I use brushes to kind of get the background, to give the different segments.
The reproducibility of the size of your, with a Q-tip, that's
it takes me a long time. Someone says, well, how many dots? And I have no idea. I started to count once, and it's kind of boring to do that. I once took a piece of a painting and just counted those dots in that little segment, and I stopped counting when I got to over 200. This is ridiculous. I could do, I could count 20 times 40 and have 800. So there's lots of dots, and it takes me a while, but it's kind of fun. I enjoy it.
You explained that this is Aboriginal.
Yeah, Aboriginal.
What's the nature of Aboriginal?
Yeah, the Aborigines were much disadvantaged in Australia, and they still have some issues. A lot of them were taken from kids were taken from the families and put into like a Western school. Mm-hmm. But the Aboriginals, they were trying to create their own culture, and they were painting. And they were painting kind of a Western style, with like mid-18th, 19th century French art or early 20th century American art.
Yeah.
And people were complaining. They said, no, the Aborigines, they can't paint like Westerners. It was good. It was great art, but it wasn't accepted.
Yeah.
And then somewhere along the line, they would use the Aboriginal style with these dots to depict their stories. They call it dream times. Their myths.
Yeah.
Dream time. Their legends. And they would do it like they would paint the dots on their body, or they would do it right in the dirt, and then it would wash away. It was just very fleeting.
Yes.
And then they thought the idea, well, gee, we could, this is really quite a style. We shouldn't just wash it away.
Yeah.
And so they started to paint like some of their community centers, some of their buildings, and depict their stories that way. And then someone said, well, gee, maybe we got tour buses coming in. Let's see if we can, do a little canvas.
Yeah.
And so it got to be kind of commercialized, but I mean, it was very successful. And it really only starts from like the 1980s is when they started, doing Aboriginal art in this style and marketing. And so it's very recent. You don't find it in many American museums at all. The Metropolitan Museum of New York. I mean, they've got an oceanic wing without any Australian Aboriginal art. So it's really, really
That's
unique.
sad. Yeah.
And so you go to Australia, Canberra, Sydney, Melbourne, and you see all this wonderful art. It's just fun, and it does depict stories. I just use the technique to kind of to create my canvas, my own, not necessarily a story. People look at it and they kind of read different things into it, which is fun. But anyway, so that Aboriginal art, it's now accepted, almost maybe too commercialized, because now you can get a coffee cup with the Sydney Opera House and dots, So, but there's still this original, authentic, Aboriginal art, and that's what I try to emulate, and I enjoy doing it.
Well, you said you're a civil engineer, so how did a civil engineer become interested in art, and then why did that lead you to this particular type of art?
Yeah, interesting, because I always enjoyed painting as a kid, but I enjoyed civil. I like building. I would read books about road building. You go to construction sites, see things going up. That always appealed to me. So I went into civil engineering and spent 40 years doing that. But my wife was an art history major, so that gave me exposure. And so for many years, I would read. We would go to museums. We love it, still do. And just enjoy that, read about the artists. Our library is filled with art books.
Yeah.
And then eventually, my wife wanted a table this was in the late 1980s. So my son brought home a table from where he was working in a dentist's office, and he was getting rid of it. So I said, maybe we can use this. So I looked at it, and I was thinking of maybe scripting it and staining it, and I said, well, maybe I can do something with it. And I would paint it, not pictorially, just every little line had a different color.
Okay.
And it was very appealing. And then from there, I eventually realized I could be a little painterly with some of this. I didn't just have to do blocks of color. I could kind of depict something. And then eventually graduated to doing it on canvas. And having success so that at any given day for the last at least 3 years, my paintings are on display somewhere on the island of Oahu, which is kind of amazing because this is not an art center. Now, admittedly, they're not necessarily in galleries. They're usually in places that have food and beverage in the title, you know, like Morning Brew or Cafe Che Pasta, Oh No Wine, but it's a hall, you know?
Yeah.
And so restaurants are fun to have a venue, and then to have something like Oahu Open Studios where people can have an opportunity to meet with the public. And
absolutely.
And I'm a member of the Association of Hawaiian Artists, the Windward Artists Guild, the International Society of Acrylic Painters. Last month I was in 4 different shows simultaneously on the island, including in City Hall. This painting here was in the show and won an award at the Honolulu Holiday. So that was.
Well, let's explore that a little bit. So how would you characterize what you got there?
We enjoy the museums, and at the Honolulu Museum of Art, and kind of what I always refer to as the Michener Gallery, they have a lot of art there. A lot of Japanese woodblock prints that he donated.
Mm-hmm.
Most of his art that he collected over the years is in the Honolulu Museum of Art.
Michener.
He donated it, and he tried to do it with the Metropolitan Museum, and he was sort of turned off by them. So Honolulu was the beneficiary.
Yeah.
So in this Michener gallery, I mean, there's this one area with the Japanese woodblock prints, and they rotate it because it's light sensitive. But they always have some kimonos on display behind glass.
Ah, yes.
And it's very, very appealing.
Yes, it is.
And then we have a friend who bought a kimono, and she has it hanging in her living room. She mounted it.
Yeah, we have a kimono from my time in Japan.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yeah, they're wonderful. Yeah. So a year ago, we were in New York City, and there was an exhibit at the Metropolitan, Art of the Kimono. And it shows, they have all these kimonos on display, 16th, 17th, 18th century. And then they have the paintings and the woodblock prints, you know, that depict people in kimonos.
Yes.
All the way up to modern, where they showed how the kimono has influenced high fashion. And it shows how you got all these, you know, Dior, you know, Versace, with a kimono influence.
Yes.
So anyway, so that appealed to me, and so I have a couple of kimonos that I've done. One of these is in the no wine.
Because now that you mention it, of course, I mean that's exactly what it elicits in my mind.
Yeah, so it's cool, and then I do my little dots, to kind of add to it. So again, it's fun. And I find any sort of venue to kind of learn from it, whether it's the cover of Civil Engineering magazine or something that I've seen on someour's wall, or palm fronds.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank
my
you.
pleasure.